A big NDTV exclusive. NDTV now confirms reports of a high-level meeting between India and China next week in Laos. Remember, this comes close on the heels of the disengagement along the line of actual control. Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, is all set to meet his Chinese counterpart on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit. This is the first such meeting in years. And of course, this is the first time that India and China have almost reached a kind of a border consensus. Remember, patrolling in Depsang has begun, and it has been a very welcome development given the fact that you've had both the army chief and the external affairs minister of the country talking about how the focus very much is on restoring trust, and this is part of that, given the fact that we also saw Prime Minister Narendra Modi meet Chinese Premier Xi as well on the sidelines of the crucial BRICS summit, and this gives you a sense of how there is some sort of a thaw, some sort of a consensus between the two countries. And since the May 2022 Galwan clashes, the situation vis-a-vis China has been pretty concerning. In fact, as External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar also pointed out, it's both military and diplomacy that have played an equal part in making sure that India and China can see eye to eye on the diplomatic high table. And it is in that backdrop that you had this crucial meeting in Laos. Earlier there were unconfirmed reports, but now NDTV, in a big exclusive, is confirming these reports of that crucial meeting. We of course saw that the last few weeks have been particularly crucial, given the fact that both in Depsang and Demchok you had patrolling resuming. This is a very happy development. In fact, on Diwali we also saw Defence Minister Rajnath Singh greeting those soldiers along the line of actual control. The line of actual control indeed has been an extremely sensitive area, given the fact that there were skirmishes, clashes since the Galwan standoff, and that standoff has persisted. But owing to diplomacy and military efforts both, you have a situation now where, as I said, India can see eye to eye on the diplomatic high table. This crucial meeting will be on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit. Now, ASEAN, of course, is crucial in the sense that we've had in the past couple of years, particularly, India emerge as the voice of the global south, voice of the Indo-Pacific particularly, and also in the context of a growing Chinese footprint, whether it's what's happening in Sri Lanka, in Maldives. Of course, we also saw this initial conundrum with the new dispensation and then a U-turn on the part of the Muizu administration. So that has been a happy development as well, and India's neighborhood first policy has certainly borne fruit in the sense that you now have this crucial meeting coming up. And I must also remind our viewers that that crucial meeting between Prime Minister Modi and the Chinese Premier Xi also took place, and that was crucial as well. But this is the first high-level meeting in the sense that you have the two global leaders, the two cabinet ministers meeting and sort of sitting eye to eye, ironing out differences. Because remember, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar had also pointed out that we need to see which direction this goes towards, because there are multiple possibilities, multiple options that this could open up. This is what S. Jaishankar had said. He had said in that address to one of the universities, if I'm not wrong, where he said that this can open up new possibilities, new areas of cooperation between the two countries, given the fact that you now have almost like a new global order taking shape with elections in the US and two raging wars. That two Indo-Pacific powers collaborating is something that's going to be beneficial and something that's going to augur well for both the countries, and that's extremely important. And it's in that backdrop that you have these two key leaders meeting in Laos on the sidelines of the ASEAN meeting as well, and this is the first high-level meeting post-disengagement. So what essentially happened? So of course, if I have to give you a timeline of sorts, it began with patrolling having resumed in both the regions, of course, Demchok as well as Depsang, but in the plains, the fact that patrolling could resume in the plains, that was a huge indicator of how there has been a real thaw along the line of actual control. In fact, my colleague Vishnu Shom is now joining us live on the phone line. So Vishnu, this is an extremely significant development given the fact that India and China have reached some sort of consensus along the line of actual control. But what more details do you have? An exclusive NDTV news break.
And China comes at a time when there's been a significant breakthrough in the tensions which we saw across the line of actual control, and comes at a time when both India and China have resumed patrolling in parts of eastern Ladakh. I suppose the meeting between the two leaders would assist in the process of confidence building measures which are absolutely critical to ensure that the new agreement or the new arrangement which has been arrived at works in a proper manner. Whether there would be subsequent steps to move to a more deep disengagement where soldiers from either sides in large numbers move back to what the situation was pre-2020 or not, that remains to be seen. Remember, there's been a great deal of infrastructure, military infrastructure, which has been built up by both sides. Whether India or China would choose to vacate those positions or not is unclear. What has happened essentially now is disengagement in in areas where soldiers were eyeball to eyeball, and that's obviously welcome. But whether this would result in a more profound transformation of the situation across the line of actual control, we do not know. But it is an important meeting between the two defense ministers of the two nuclear neighbors, and hopefully, as I said, will go towards confidence building measures, which is very much the need of the hour.
Our senior managing editor Nikunj Garg is also live with us on the phone line. So Nikunj, this meeting is clearly an indicator of the fact that after the border disengagement, India and China perhaps are now in a position to see eye to eye on the diplomatic high table as well.
Well, Vedant, as you know, that last week or just a few weeks ago, 1 or 2 weeks back, the Prime Minister met the Chinese leader, China's top boss. Now, this is a second meeting in the series of meetings, quite clearly, as now we are in a position to confirm to our viewers between the top leadership of both India and China. This is quite clearly also the sign of a deepening engagement, which India is. This is a path which India obviously is now deliberately walking, which also means that the whole process of disengagement, as was being envisaged, obviously these are nano steps, these are small steps, as Vishnu was indicating that, there's a huge, humongous process to be achieved because there is obviously deployment, there's obviously an unprecedented deployment of thousands of soldiers from both sides with the related military infrastructure. But these are nano steps, and those steps that are being taken are quite clearly, from the Indian establishment's point of view, moving in the right direction. Now, whether they achieve the complete fruition, how soon do they achieve the complete fruition, status quo ante as it was in April 2020, we are yet to see that, and we will obviously get to know that only with the passage of time. However, the process is moving in right direction. This meeting comes as a clear indication of that, because otherwise, after the Prime Minister met the top Chinese leader, the supreme Chinese leader, Mr. Xi Jinping, just weeks after that, a few days after that, on the back of that meeting, this meeting, which is actually the first meeting post the disengagement process actually started to happen on the ground, would not have taken place. So the big takeaway from this situation that we can inform to our viewers is that after the Prime Minister, now the Defense Minister of India, Mr. Rajnath Singh, is all set to meet his Chinese counterpart, the Defense Minister of China, in Laos next week, which is if I'm not wrong, the meeting is on 21st and 22nd. That is, the entire congregation is on 21st and 22nd, and of these 2 days, the meeting on the side between these two very important leaders who are directly handling, like the External Affairs Ministers and Ministry, the entire process is going to happen. So that is what we can confirm to our viewers. The clear indication coming out of that is that the process, as was envisaged between the two sides for the disengagement process, which the External Affairs Minister actually announced during a NDTV summit, is going on the right track, is carrying on as per plan. And that is why this high-level meeting, second high-level meeting in such a quick succession, is taking place. This is the import of that meeting, and this is the chronology of that meeting. Now, as I said, it's a humongous process to be achieved. We are only seeing the beginning of that process currently, and how soon that process is achieved, we are yet to see that unfold, Vedant.
That's right, Nikunj. As you said, it's just the beginning, but something that the External Affairs Minister also said, how we got here, both diplomacy and military efforts worked in equal parts for India to, be in a position to see eye to eye with China, because as the External Affairs Minister has also said on multiple fora that there have been conflicts, there have been skirmishes on the border, and it was not an easy situation to get out of.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. Indian establishment on its part has shown a great deal of fortitude, I must say, in negotiating a situation with what is probably today the second most powerful country in the world, in all probability, in terms of military might, for sure. There are Pentagon assessments that in the near China sea area and in certain areas of its own backyard, the Chinese army can probably today defeat the United States Army. This is Pentagon's own assessment. So, in dealing with such a mighty foe, let me not call them enemies, but let me certainly say that a country which is not very friendly, at least, which has not been very friendly, at least in the past, and that is why it took 5 long years for a bilateral at the top to take place between Mr. Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Mr. Modi. So, in dealing with such a country which is obviously sees itself as a global superpower now, possibly second only to the United States of America or an equal, it is not an easy task, and that is why India marshaled every possible iota of strength, and both in terms of economic, military and diplomatic resource, and placed it while dealing with China. And I'm quite sure that that entire process, which the government of India very carefully navigated, has resulted in some certain positive developments. And as I said, because these developments are on the positive track, because these developments are positive in nature, the government has in its right mind decided that this is the time to deepen this engagement. And right after the Prime Minister's meeting, now it is the Defense Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, who is all set to meet his defense counterpart, his Chinese counterpart in the Ministry of Defense in just about a week's time for now. So this is the second high-level meeting in only a matter of weeks. First meeting post the actual disengagement process started on the ground.